Good evening. I'm Musawil Fardin, today's host on our YouTube channel ZED TV. I would like to and love to introduce my partner Shorabej Khan, the founder and chairman ZED TV, and also founder and initiator of New England BNP. Here we discuss the current affairs in the United States. Today's topics: Trump's immigration legacy, progress or problems. And this is the time to introduce our guest and the chief guest of our show, that is Miguel. Is a program director at Refugee and Immigration Assistance Center in Worcester, MA, Massachusetts. She has been working with refugees since 2010. Her work has focused on refugee resettlement and social adjustment, employment service, community relations, and advocacy. Miguel, you can hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So, my viewers like to know, what is a refugee resettlement?
So, refugee resettlement is a process in the United States by which people who have been forced to flee their homeland have the opportunity to come to the United States and build a new life. So, the United States Refugee Admissions Program was created in 1980, and it works in coordination with the United Nations and the Department of State and Homeland Security. So to receive legal refugee status, you have to show that you have been forced to flee your homeland, you've crossed a border, you're in another country, and you can no longer, you can't stay there permanently. Often the United Nations, you may end up in a refugee camp, and the UN will have a presence. They'll review your case. They'll decide if you qualify for refugee status, and if you do, then you have the opportunity to apply for resettlement. There are about 25 different countries around the world that participate in these resettlement programs with the United Nations. And as I mentioned, the United States has been doing this since 1980. And one component of the program is that the President of the United States gets to decide each year how many refugees to allow into the country through this program, and which countries to accept them from. And this is often based on where there's the greatest humanitarian need, but it also takes into consideration diplomatic and strategic issues, such as the case of our military involvement in Iraq or Afghanistan. So the program was signed into law originally by Jimmy Carter in 1980 and was really built with support, bipartisan support from John McCain and Ronald Reagan. We actually received the largest number of refugees coming in annually during the Reagan administration, about 200,000 a year. After 9/11, the program, there were a number of people in Congress who were really concerned that terrorists might be able to sneak in through the program, and they wanted to review how well people being accepted into the program were being screened and vetted. And so the arrival numbers were reduced quite a bit after 9/11. And during the Obama administration, they started to increase to about 60,000 to 80,000. And the vetting process takes 2 to 5 years. People have to go through background checks, interviews, cross-examinations, retinal scans and fingerprints go through about 300 databases. They have to be cleared by Homeland Security, the CIA, the embassy, every intelligence agency, Interpol. It's really quite extensive. So people may have been living in a refugee camp for years and years and years, and then they go through this 2 to 5 year vetting process, including medical exams, and if they pass all that, then they are scheduled to be brought here by our government to the United States, and they're sent to a resettlement agency like ours. There were approximately 300 resettlement agencies across the country receiving refugees. However, in 2017, when President Obama had sent the presidential determination, the number of refugees that could come into the country that year at 125,000. And then Trump got elected, and he cut it by half year after year, to the point by his last year in office, they only allowed about 8,000 refugees into the country that were distributed across the whole country. And as a result, there were about 150 refugee resettlement agencies across the country that closed and went out of business. So when Biden got elected, his administration worked to rebuild this program. It ran into quite a few challenges because in the process of trying to rebuild the capacity and open up new agencies, open new offices, hire staff, equipment, all of that, the military decided to withdraw from Afghanistan. And so we then evacuated 175, or not, we evacuated 75,000 people out of Afghanistan into the US. And those people were all sent to resettlement agencies across the country at a time when we had a decreased capacity. But we all worked very hard to help those people get settled in the United States. And the Biden administration went on to continue to try to rebuild this program. This program is now under threat again by the Trump administration, which last Monday, on the day of the inauguration, Donald Trump signed executive order placing an indefinite pause on all refugee arrivals. So he's not reducing arrivals right now, he's stopping them completely.
Thank you, Miguel. And our next guest is Engineer Mossadegh Hossain, PhD, PE. He's a developer and innovation solution on structural challenges, focusing on unique engineering solutions with the use of cutting-edge technology. Engineer Mossadegh Hossain is recognized for his excellence in the state like Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. He has completed his PhD from Doctor of Philosophy, George Mason University, Virginia. So, Engineer Mossadegh, what you think? We know there is a lot of illegal and legal immigrant working in construction industry, and what do you think is going to be affected in construction business? If these people be deported, a good number of people is already been deported, and they are planning to deport at least 1 million. So, what do you think your business and your side is going to be affected with that decisions?
Well, it'll be affected in a very bad way because my profession requires me to supervise a lot of construction projects, whether it be multi-story condominium buildings, residential homes, or even roadway projects. And in all of these situations, you will see a large number of immigrants, mostly South American. How many of them are legal or many of them are illegal? I don't know. But imagine without them, the construction industry would diminish or maybe even stop. And especially when you create a fear of deportation, many will leave whatever they're doing and move to another state, thereby disrupting whatever construction activity they were engaged in. So it is a concern to a large number of clients. Say a 12-story condominium project we are working on in Washington, D.C. currently employs about 600 South American, Latin American laborers. I mean, they're worried about 10% of them have not showed up for work because out of fear of deportation, even though as far as we know, ICE has not impacted Washington, D.C. yet. But out of fear, a lot of them are leaving, going to other states. So the ripple effect will continue as more and more laborers leave out of fear or are deported. So this will be a disruption that will cause financial losses to the developers. It will cause the financial losses to the banks who are giving out the loans for some projects. And also it will certainly not help the housing crisis that is currently prevalent in the United States. So it is a big area of concern. And, it doesn't matter whether they're legal or illegal. As far as I know and as what I've seen, they all pay taxes because the INS is not in the immigration enforcement business. So as long as you issue paycheck with a tax deduction, they're happy. It is when INS makes a raid on a project site or comes in to see the I-9 forms or whatever that is required or the valid verification, that's when the disruption starts. So definitely the fear and the actual deportation of the laborers, the contractors and their employees will create a huge impact on the construction industry, and that impact will not be good, but will be very detrimental. If Trump is able to increase to 1,200 to 1,500 deportees a day, as he has claimed, the problem will get worse before it gets any better.
Thank you, Engineer Mossadegh.
Yeah.
Now our next special guest is attorney Mohammad Waidul Islams, and he finished his graduation from most prestigious law schools in the world, Harvard Law Schools. He is serving as a general counselor in Jill Money Corporations, as a legal counselor in Qatar Investment Authority (QIA), and also a legal officer in Islamic Development Bank (IDB). So, Mr. Attorney at Law, Muhammad Waidul Islam, my guest wants to know, like, what is the actual difference between legal immigrant and illegal immigrant? Immigrants are immigrants. As long as they came in here, they go to the court or they do what they're supposed to do, they should be called as a immigrant. Why someone is called as a illegal immigrant rather than calling just an immigrant?
Thank you very much, Musavi, for your question. Legal, illegal is not only with regard to immigration. There are many other, governmental, social, political, and many other aspects where you have the concept of legal and illegal. So likewise, in terms of immigration, who are called legal immigrant or who are called not illegal immigrant. The legal immigrants are those who come here as per the United States immigration policy approved by the immigration laws and policies of the country. For example, a child born in the United States, he deserved to be a citizen of the United States. So likewise, that's although an immigrant person comes here and gives birth to a child, the child becomes natural citizen of the country. On the contrary, if, say, for example, if a American person brings a child from outside and without any legal process, he or she keeps the child here, and the child ultimately becomes an immigrant of this country, but he has no proof, no documentation, no legal process initiated to approve his stay, residency, or citizenship, whatever. So that child becomes illegal immigrant. When someone comes here with a citizen or green card holder or even an alien person and gives birth to a child, that child, because of birth in the United States, becomes constitutionally a citizen of the country. On the other hand, a child brought to this country from other countries and having no immigration process initiated or completed becomes illegal immigrant. So we know there are many categories of immigration, like immigration through families. If you are a US citizen, you can marry a non-citizen person and then naturalize her or him, your spouse, the non-US citizen spouse comes here and becomes immigrants. Likewise, a father, American father or American mother, they can, process the immigration of their children. They become citizen of the country. Likewise, brothers, sisters, they can, apply for their siblings. Once they come here, they become legally immigrant of this country. So all these processes are legal. The people coming through these processes are legal citizens. On the contrary, if a visitor comes here and then remains here, he becomes illegal immigrant. Likewise, a businessman, a student, whoever, without any legal status, after coming here as an immigrant, remains here. They have no legal documentation, no process initiated or completed. They become illegal. So that's the basic distinction. Of course, your question is, why there has to be legal or illegal. Immigrants are immigrants. But of course, for the sake of a country's administration, it's good to define who are legal, who are illegal, so that no, if there are people who deserve to be legally naturalized, they take advantage of those processes and become a legal citizen. And then those who come as illegal, they also have to find a way to legalize their immigrant status. Otherwise, if they remain illegal for the country, it's very difficult to manage in terms of their orientation. If they do some illegal activities, if they commit crimes, so that's why they have to be either legally resident or citizen here, or otherwise they're illegal because they don't follow the rules of the country. They don't follow the policies and procedures set up by the government for immigrants to become legal. So it's important from a country's political and administrative perspective that all people in the country, whether citizen or immigrant, they must be legally authorized to live here. If they are immigrants, then they must be a lawful immigrant of the country. Wasabi.
Thank you, Attorney Waidur Islams. So I'll go and like to talk to Shoravej Khans. Like, do you want to continue like for the next session, or you want me to continue for the next sessions? Because you are my co-host.
You can continue, but I just have one question, quick question to the Director Megan. My question is, Megan, as we all know about the President Trump past administration, how he ran the country, and some media said he's the only president, convicted president, re-elected. So do you think, my question is, why the American people re-elect him and why vote for him? And if you look at the result of the last election, Republican has a majority for all three branches, House, Senate, and executive branch. So my question to you is, Democrat had or Joe Biden administration had any bad policy, or they missed the opportunity to get elected? What his name is, Kamala Harris.
Thank you, Sorha. That's a really, really big question. And before I try to address that, I would love to just add a little bit to the conversation about documented versus undocumented and legal versus illegal immigrants, if I may, if you don't mind. So if you're a documented immigrant, that means you have access to a social security card, work authorization. You often have a path to permanent residency and a path to citizenship. If you entered this country, if you came on a visa and overstayed your visa, and therefore now are technically in the country illegally, or if you entered over the border without receiving any documentation, you're considered an illegal immigrant, but you're actually an undocumented immigrant. And part of the problem is that we have an outdated and inefficient immigration system. We haven't had any meaningful update to our immigration system since 1965. And so for the majority of people to try to find a legal pathway to access permanent residency or citizenship, they need to engage in a process that might not come to fruition within their lifetime. The system is that protracted and inefficient. So, for some people, there are ways to do it, and for others, there aren't. And I think, if somebody is an undocumented immigrant living in this country and they commit a crime, some kind of a violent crime, they ought to be deported for sure. But I think it is really it's incorrect for us to label anybody who's here that is living and working, raising a family, starting a business, paying their taxes, living peacefully and contributing to the American dream. To label them as criminals is really wrong on our part. I would argue that they are more victims of our outdated and ineffective immigration system, because the reality is also that our economy depends on 1 million new people entering the workforce every year to keep our economy afloat. And so we absolutely need all these immigrants who are coming here in whichever way they are arriving. And so it's really incumbent upon us to figure out how to make our system work so that we can utilize the labor that they're offering to our different workforce systems that we have, tremendous workforce shortages in many areas. So, this idea that they're going to have mass deportations right now is really crazy and fear mongering and potentially going to cause tremendous harm, not only to the families that will be impacted, but to our economy as well. So we need to, I think we need to, any way we can, speak out against this system and advocate that that immigration reform take place properly, so that we can continue to welcome and take advantage of the labor, the love and labor that immigrants bring to this country.
Yeah, for sure. If there are families, there are people who are for some reason undocumented, but they're contributing to the economy, to the country, and they are not corrupt, they are not criminal, they don't have any bad record. Our administrators should think positive about them and try to help them to have the legal papers and think about how to make them lawful immigrant citizens of the country, because we know, as Meg has said, that our economy is largely dependent on the immigrants' tremendous contribution to the country. So we should not be neglecting them at all.
In 2019, undocumented immigrants contributed $92 billion in taxes. And in 2023, undocumented immigrants contributed $23 billion in taxes. Statistically, immigrants are much less likely to be criminals than natural-born citizens, and they're 80% more likely to be entrepreneurs and start a business than a natural-born citizen. So they really, immigration, are the country, we are really sustained by immigration in this country, and it's important that we recognize that, and that is the message that gets out to the broader public, and not the misinformation and fear mongering that is circulated now.
That's true. I live in Texas, and I know how difficult it is for every household to live a peaceful, comfortable life without the help of, whether documented or undocumented, the immigrant communities. They're doing each and everything: lawn mowing, plumbing, this and electricity, electrician, all the services that we need as household members. Basically, you cannot find it from the local people, from the natural citizen of the country. So ultimately, for us to live a comfortable life in Texas as well as in other places, I'm sure, every step you need them, and they're basically doing a favor to us to have a peaceful, comfortable life at the cost of their labor, and in return, how much we are paying to them. If we hire a local citizen, the price may go as high as 3-4 times. So that cheaper the labor we get from them, and still we have a hostility to them, and we treat them badly, and we label them as criminals. This is so shameful on us, and really a kind of unjust treatment to them. We should be considering them as people tremendously, significantly contributing to even our own living, let alone the tremendous contribution to the economic growth of the country. Musavi.
Right.
I'm sorry, Fardin, can I add something? Where Megan and I live, I just want to add something. Since Trump administration started deported all those illegal immigrant or legal whatever you guys call, in this area, already small businesses has been affected. And some of the business I noticed that they already closed for a few days because there is just some legal immigrant also scared to work. So I got to talk to all my friends, all other business partners. If I call them, I talk to them. They said everybody quit. Some people has a 5 or 6 people they quit. They're legal, even they're legal. Some people they enter legal in this country. So this, I'm not sure if you call this a bad policy of a Trump administration or not, but it is already start affected for our small businesses and all other communities too.
I have stated just a moment ago the effect of the reduction in the labor force due to deportations and fear. It will affect the construction industry and the output of the construction industry in an adverse way. If you look at, and Ohidul Islam mentioned that the basic services are also provided by immigrants for a much lower wage than that would be charged by, say, a business owned by a citizen. And so when you start to create this disruption in the immigrant community, whether legal or illegal, because we have heard that in their sweep, ICE have also picked up legal immigrants. In
Yeah,
fact,
even
there's
students, even
right, and
running
then
students. Yeah.
there was a news item where a mother and a grandmother, her daughter, and her grandchild were shopping, and they were picked up by ICE at a store because they were speaking Spanish, and they were taken into detention and held there for about 5 or 6 hours, and then they were able to prove that they were citizens at which they were released, and the detention facility was a significant distance from where they lived and where they were picked up, and so they had to then pay a pretty pricey sum to get a Uber home. So this sort of fear mongering that is now being spread throughout the United States cannot be helpful in any way, and certainly not to the immigrant community that don't have the papers to prove who they are. Um, so the in the long run, like I said, the outcome and the effects of this is going to be disruptive and may last beyond the Trump presidency.
So Engineer Mosadek, why you think even students in being affected, because they're not immigrant, actually they are the students, so they should be here for as long as they're studying in a school. So why you think they getting picked up and being deported?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think the ICE, in their zeal to capture as many immigrants as they can, they don't differentiate between who is a student, who is a laborer, who is a construction worker. I think at this point they're going by the virtue of skin color, unless a student is specifically called out, in which case that student may not have a brown skin, but they may be picked up because they may have because the ICE does not care about what documentation they have. They are now hell bent on fulfilling a quota, so that they can then boast to the media that we have removed so many people. And then the people that they've picked up are left to dispute their status with ICE, and that's a long process before they're released. So that is what is happening. ICE is not differentiating between legal and illegal. They are essentially targeting neighborhoods where the majority are brown skinned, and they're targeting groups that are brown skinned. So that is what is happening, unfortunately. So by the virtue of their skin, people are already being labeled illegal in ICE sweep, ICE's sweep, and then they're left to their devices to prove that they're not illegal, but they have some sort of a legal status in this country.
Thank you, Engineer Mossadegh.
Yeah.
My next question is for Attorney Waidul Islam. Attorney Waidul Islam, as we know, you cannot harass a citizen, and even you ask any citizen any question, they had a right to plead fifth, not to answer to those eyes or anybody is harassing them. So, where is the legal stand right now? Why are they are not getting protected by the Constitution's amendment and the law, not to be harassed by any government agency? Why is such things is keep happening now?
In a spree like this, a lot of illegal things may happen, and so that's why awareness of the rights of the citizen and residents should be increased. We should educate the people. We should launch campaign for public awareness about what rights they have if they are faced with ICE people, if they're faced with FBI, if they're faced with police. So randomly, you cannot just interrogate someone without showing that you have a proper authorization to do so. Like without warrant, you cannot arrest a person, you cannot search a house. So that's the constitutionally guaranteed legal right of the people living in this country. So in most cases, people don't know what their rights are, and that's why they basically are subdued to the demands, rather unsolicited demands of the legal agencies, and they are basically exercising their powers under some guise of political backing. So but they should be legally challenged, and any person can raise the issue. Do you have an authorization? Show me your identities. Show me your authorization to speak to me. And of course, every person has right to deny to speak. They have the right to speak through a lawyer, to consult a lawyer. So if someone asks you to say something or reveal something or hand over something, that person can say, I cannot do so without consulting my attorney. So come some other time, I will appoint my attorney, and then I deal with my attorney. And I'm not ready to speak to you anything or give to you anything. So these are the rights that the residents, the victimized residents, should be aware of and exercise. Unfortunately, there's lack of awareness, lack of campaign that various organizations can do, individuals can do. Now it's the age of social media. Utilizing social media, we should generate the awareness among the people of their rights when they are faced with such a situation where ICE or FBI or some other agencies may come and interrogate them, arrest them. So they should be strong enough, they should be brave, and they should be challenging their authorities. Musavi.
Thank you, Attorney Waidul Islam. Now I'm going to request my co-host Shorabaj Khan to ask his important questions to our honorable guest to make Gello.
Thank you. Meg, I will be back to you, but I may ask one Attorney Wahid the question. quick question, which is this situation was in Worcester area. Attorney Ohid, if a student is a legal student and has a legal status in this country, and if that person work any business outside of their campus, and they got raided and they got arrested, do you think they can be deported right away?
Of
If
course,
his,
yeah, it's a good question, and in many cases we see the students they work outside their campus. Usually, those who come with I-20 F1 visa, they have work limitation. They cannot work off campus, and even on campus, there are certain limited hours. So this is the law of the country, and unless and until you change the law, you have to abide by. If you don't, if you violate, then of course you become illegal. Your works become illegal, and then the authority has right to make a decision on the basis of the gravity of your activities. I think if such is the situation, then of course it's a helpless situation. They should be aware of what they're supposed to do, what they're not supposed to do. Yeah.
okay, I'm sorry to Megan now. Thank you for the answer. Megan, my question is, you know that I'm not sure exactly number, but there is a labor shortage in this country and every year, right? That's I'm not sure. Probably you know that how many the labor shortage for for this country. Now, on the other hand, you see that so many illegal or maybe illegal immigrant getting arrested because of that. So, do you think that make it more problematic for for our hiring or hiring an employee or to find employee?
Are you asking the fact that people are being deported right now is going to make it harder for employers to find workers?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
right.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As you're pointing out, we already do have significant labor shortages in multiple industries, from hospitality to construction to the restaurant industry to healthcare, home health aides, helping to care for our rapidly increasing aging population with all the baby boomers who are aging out of the workforce. It is we are absolutely dependent on these influxes of immigrants to meet our labor force demands. And so I think we especially saw after COVID, when a lot of people stopped working and everybody was home. There was, for a long time after COVID, a number of industries, a lot of local businesses, Main Street shops closed, restaurants closed because they couldn't find people to come to work. And so we're going to see that type of thing repeating if the level of deportation rises to the rhetoric, to what they're saying they want to do. But we can't have mass deportation without mass internment centers, and to try to deport millions of people is going to be extremely costly. It'd be very difficult and costly to do, and that it'll have a huge costly impact on our economy.
Right.
Thank you. Yeah, for the
Thank you, Megan, for your wonderful answer. But I have a question for Megan. I'd like to know, Megan, so what these refugees is coming from, and what your organization do for these refugees, and who we can call refugee and who we can call immigrant. So I'd love to know those answers from you.
Sure. Sure. So while we use the term refugee in a general sense and talk about anybody who's, fled their homeland as a refugee, but refugee is also a legal status. And so somebody can be granted refugee status can actually only be granted overseas. You cannot be given refugee status once you're in this country. So if maybe you have the same criteria as a refugee, but you came to this country on your own, you would be considered an asylum seeker, most likely. So you'd be here wanting to apply for asylum. And you would, if you have the right to apply for asylum. Currently, right now, if you submit an asylum application, you are living here legally pending asylum, and it's currently taking 6 to 10 years for asylum cases to go before a judge, at which point they'll review whether they think your case meets the requirements of being granted asylum or not. And if not, then you are subject to deportation at that time. But if you're granted refugee status overseas, so this often happens, I can give you like an example. Somebody, has their lives are being threatened by the unrest in the Congo. Someone's raided their village and their town and killing people indiscriminately. So, somebody, a mom grabs her children and runs. They cross into Uganda. They end up in a refugee camp in Uganda. And the United Nations has a presence there. So they will review their story and their case. They'll determine if they think their story is a legitimate claim, and they will grant them refugee status if they find that they believe it's legitimate, and then help them to apply to be resettled in another country where they can stay permanently, because they can't stay permanently in Uganda. So this same thing we see happening, people who fled Syria, they're now in Turkey or Jordan and Egypt. In many cases, they're not allowed to work legally in those countries, and their children aren't allowed to go to school. So if they're lucky and they're able to apply for resettlement, they have that opportunity to come to the United States or to Canada or to Germany or to Australia or the Netherlands. So we have been receiving refugees from Syria, from Afghanistan, from Iraq, from the Congo, from South Sudan, from Eritrea, from Malaysia, from Burma, from Bhutan, from Somalia, Central African Republic, the Congo. So it's been a variety of African countries, Middle Eastern countries, and Southeast Asian countries predominantly. Oh, actually, historically, the refugee admissions program had never accepted people coming from Central or South America. Because of the numbers of people that do cross over the border, and because they've always been presumed to be coming because they're looking for just a better opportunity economically. So if you're leaving a country because you can't find work and you're living in poverty and you think you can do better in America, that doesn't qualify you to be granted asylum or to be granted refugee status. You really have to be fleeing some kind of persecution and war. You have to have fled for your life. It's not just to seek better economic opportunity. However, in recent years, a number of advocates have argued that many people fleeing Central and South America are fleeing drug cartels and very dangerous situations and fleeing for their lives. And so I think it started under the Obama administration. The United States government began to accept people from Central American countries into the refugee admissions program. So recently, we have just started to receive some people from Venezuela, Honduras, Colombia, and Nicaragua as well.
Megan, I need a quick answer for my next question from you. So, the previous year, a lot of regime got changed. Even the Syria, the Bashar Assad, the government got been changed. They had a new government. So, even like the country I born in Bangladesh, their previous regime got changed. So now, last 15 years from Bangladesh, there is a lot of people do like the political asylum because of the previous regime. She's like really fascist, and she like kill, kidnaps, and do a lot of like nasty things that she should not supposed to do, but she did. And to a lot of journalists came in this country, and their political asylum has been approved. But the regime got changed in Syria, in Bangladesh, some other country as well. So can they stay this country still as a political asylum because their political asylum been approved, or these things is been gone because their country, their origin country regime has been changed?
Because say that last part again, the origin of their country has been changed?
Yeah. The question I try to I can explain it you in a better way. Like you just mentioned, they cannot come in United States because they have a better life in the United States. They have to have like a trait in their homeland country,
Okay. So there's
right?
other avenues to come, right? You can some people come on the lottery. There's a lottery in a number of countries. Some people come and get to come to the
No,
United
Megan,
States
my question
simply
is
on the lottery,
specifically
but you
for
mean
those
can do they have an
political
asylum
asylum
claim?
people.
But
Yeah, but their
specifically, would
political
they have an
government been
asylum
changed.
claim?
Yeah, so but their government has been changed when they like their
I
party
see what you're
A.
saying.
Yeah,
So
the
you can make
party.
the case that maybe so Assad is gone from Syria, so now it's safe in Syria, and people
Now
can live
it's safe
safely
in
there
Syria.
too.
So they what's
Right,
going to be
right.
happen? The people who applied during the Assad was president. So they will have still have the legal status or this been gone because their king or their president been changed.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really, really good question. And there's no like clear black or white answer. Often the decision for something like that can be very subjective and it can be based on a judge's interpretation of the situation. I'm not sure whether there is a formal United States policy on whether we perceive a regime change in a country to now make things safe or not. I mean, I don't know that is that kind of a determination is made like on a national level or not. I'm not sure if Wahid would know more about that than me.
If
So
if I may just interject,
yeah, please. Next is Vinny.
after the Assad government fell in Syria, there are a lot of asylum seekers, Syrian asylum seekers in Germany, were informed that their asylum application would not proceed because the German government perceived that it was safer for them to go back to Syria.
Hmm.
So it depends a lot on the country's policy.
Yeah.
So I do. So like Megan said, it really depends
Hmm.
on the person reviewing or the judge reviewing the asylum to determine is it safe for this person to go back or this person should be able to stay. I mean, this may happen in the case of activists who are not particularly liked in their country by the regime that they were designated as a person non grata or even the falling regime. So in that cases, maybe their asylum is made permanent and is extended. But maybe in other cases where the regime has fallen from which the asylum seeker fled, but now there's a new regime which may be considered much friendlier, then their asylum process may not proceed any further.
So,
Engineer
so what,
Mossadegh.
I'm not aware
Yeah.
that we've made a decision that it's safe for people to go back to Syria and that their applications will no longer be valid. I know we had right up until Monday been continuing to receive people that were coming through the refugee admissions program from Syria. Many of them had been in Turkey and actually over the last 3 years, the people that we've received from Syria had all previously been approved to come under the last Trump administration. So during that time frame they had been approved to come, but their arrival was delayed because of the policy at that time to stop allowing as many people in. So they were supposed to have come, 8 years ago, and then the fact that our government was reducing the numbers of people they were allowing to come created this big backlog. And so everybody that we've been getting the last 3 years, they'd actually completed the approval process years before, and we're now just being able to arrive. And then I haven't heard that any of that will change for anybody because things might be becoming more stable in Syria.
Right.
Thank you, Megan. My next question is, Engineer Mossadegh, for you. So, as we know, the United States is built by immigrant, run by immigrant, and also you can say like a born by immigrant, because none of us are like Native American or Red Indians. Like especially like me, you, or whoever here, the most of their grandpa or great great grandpa came in here and grow their family. If you consider those immigrants, they're staying here over a year, like 10 years, 15 years. They work here, buy a house or rent a house, even buy the bed, furnitures, and their kid go to school in here. So they already like an attached with the community, and if you push them back, they might don't even know anyone from their like an origin country. So it's a big chaos. Why you think the US government is focusing on this matter so much right now?
I have no idea, honestly speaking. I My undergraduate, 4 years of undergraduate, I did in Ohio, in a small town, Delaware, Ohio. Then 2 years of my engineering undergraduate I did in St. Louis, Missouri. And I met so many people during my stay in those two states, and no one spoke out about immigration. No one was discriminatory in any way. No one was racist. But somehow, in the last couple of administrations, this form of blatant racism has raised its ugly head and interjected itself into the politics. Now, if we look at this past election, we hear that the people really voted on the inflation issue and not really immigration. But because immigration is a part of the rhetoric of Trump, I can't believe for a second that the majority of the people who voted for Trump are racist or cannot stand people from other countries and cultures. Okay, but it is there and we have to deal with it. And in my opinion, the way to tackle it is recognize the contribution of the immigrant, legal or illegal. Recognize what you mentioned, their long stay in this country, their contribution to the economy. They have put down roots and their families. And if they're deported, they really don't know where to go and where they will start and how they will start. Instead of putting them through such pain and suffering, if they've contributed to this country, give them some kind of a permission to stay and continue their work. I don't see a reason why they need to be deported. I honestly don't, and it doesn't make sense. Like I said, it just boggles my mind that in this dynamic economy, right now, I think there was a newscast yesterday where it was mentioned that the United States is now constitutes 25% of the world's GDP. That's incredible. And so we need workers, we need people who can produce, who consume, who pay taxes. So why go to this craziness of deporting people who have contributed to the economy? For the case of criminals, I understand. But the thing is, those who have contributed, who have put down roots, who are sending their kids to school and college, they should not have to bear the brunt of this racist diatribe that this administration has engaged in.
Thank you, Engineer Mossadegh. Attorney Wahidul Islam, do you have any legal advice for those people to save themselves from getting arrested from ICE and being deported like in the next day? Like what they should do to protect themselves and get like an help from expert like you people so that they can like at least avoid and can go in front of the judge to have his or her day?
Definitely, as I said before, whether immigrant, non-immigrant, all of them should know what rights they have, particularly situations like this. So, like currently, adverse situation is going on against the immigrant communities. So each and every single individual should know if they are faced with ICE personnel or police, they should be aware of their rights. First and foremost, they should ask the officer to identify. Secondly, the authorization to interrogate the person or arrest or search. So these are very basic. Thirdly, they can say that I'm not willing to speak without the help of a lawyer. That's a fundamental constitutional right a person has. So they should exercise all these rights.
Actually,
And
Wahidul, do you experience any case like that with your law firm? Because your law firm also handle, I heard, like E2 visa and some other non-immigrant and immigrant status. So do your like a firm handle like any those situations like
definitely, I tell you, yesterday we received a person who came here as asylum seeker, being oppressed, uh, uh, very nastily oppressed and attacked by political thugs of his country ruling parties. So he applied for asylum in 2014, and next month he has interview in New York. He lives in Dallas. Now he works in the airport. And all these years he has been here working and being home. Now, because of this situation, he is scared how he should travel to New York. In the airport, he might be arrested. So he came to us. We told him that you have the immigration case pending. You have a notification of your hearing that your hearing would take place in a court in New York. Have all the paper handy. Have your work authorization. Have all the identity and all papers up front. And whenever any officer confronts you, we hope this will not happen to you, but in case, since you were scared, keep all the documents, and then if still they harass you, and they ask additional information from you, you can tell them that you can advise them to speak to us as your attorneys. So then the guy was like comforted, and he felt as at ease, and now he's planning to travel to New York. So yesterday we had a boy here, of teenage boy, 14 years, since the morning until sunset time. Nobody knew about his whereabouts. He went out of home. He didn't come back home. Parents, all the community is concerned what happened to him, whether he's abducted, whether it's taken away by ICE or some other people, because they are randomly arresting people, deporting. So they came to me. I said, of course, this is a teenage boy. Of course, and they have citizenship. So I don't expect that ICE or any agencies would come and abduct him and take him and deport him without letting his parents know. But there might be other possibilities, abduction or other thing. Initial instinct was that he might have been deported. Of course, is lawful citizen, born here. There is no reason that he should be deported. But because of the fear-mongering situation currently going on, everybody is apprehensive. So that's why we had to solace them that there is very scanty likelihood that he will be arrested by ICE or immigration agencies and deported, but we should work around other possibilities. Luckily, we found him towards the end of the day, and he was back home to his parents, so we didn't have to worry about much of deporting or other things. So, but these things are going on very randomly, and it's very devastating for the families. Very fearful. People are so much scared. There are many people who are not going out of home for work, although there are sole bread earners on whom the entire family depend. But because of the fear that's going on, they're just staying home and not going out for work. So this is very bad for the country in terms of our long legacy of peaceful living in this country, and particularly the immigrant communities. A tremendous contribution to the economy, to the society. So the things that's going on has very tremendously adverse implication for our society, our culture, our values, as well as our future economy, and this should stop. Musabi.
Thank you, Attorney Wahidul
The-
Islam. Megan, you
Sorry,
had
just
a big organization. Sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to add to what Wahid was saying that one of the ironies is that there are thousands of people normally deported from the United States every year, and in fact, under the Obama administration, more people were deported than under the last Trump administration and under the Biden administration, and that was just all done in sort of the normal process of things. So, if there's a need for specific people to be deported, that work takes place, and it's no need to have it done through this process of creating all this fear. It really is a lot of just grandstanding and politicking, and it's really it's unfortunate, and we shouldn't stand for it because, as Wahid said, it's creating tremendous fear across the country for anybody who is an immigrant, whether they're a citizen, whether they're permanent resident, whether they have, they're here legally under another status. There's a tremendous fear and confusion. And so one of the things we've been advising a lot of our community partners who are working with the immigrant community, whether they're refugees or other types of immigrants, is to first help the people they're working with to make sure they do understand what their immigration status is. Because a lot of time people don't even know. I'm here as a legal refugee, but I don't understand what that means really, and that I'm legal. And so, because everyone's just across the board scared. And so they're not showing up for work when they have no reason not to go to work. And they're not going for medical care when they need medical care because they're afraid of doing anything that's going to put them in the public eye. But we are asking them, first try to help people to understand what their immigration status is and to know that if they have a legal status, that they're not at risk of being deported, and they should always be carrying their ID with them. If they have an employment or their authorization card, to carry it, and a copy of their social security card or their green card or their passport, their visa, anything that shows what their status is. And yes, if they're stopped or approached by ICE, they have the right to say, I'm invoking my Fifth Amendment rights, and I am not going to say anything. They shouldn't answer any questions, because any question they do answer could incriminate them. So they should say, I am using my right to remain silent, and I won't speak without an attorney present. And they should never let anybody into their home or place of business without a warrant signed by a judge, not a warrant issued by USCIS. It has to be a warrant signed by a court of law.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Megan.
just if I may, just following up on what Megan just mentioned. Obama was called the deporter in chief. I believe he deported over 2 million persons.
1.9 million.
The what?
1.9 million.
Okay, 1.9 million, 2 million. Okay. But this deportations has occurred under the Biden administration on the average of over 300 persons a day. So anyone who is in the United States without some kind of a legal status runs the risk and knows the risk of continuing to stay in this country. So, but like as Megan mentioned, that this is just political grandstanding by publicizing on social media and on the TV and the news that look what we're doing, we're living up to our promise, and creating a sense of fear. So what Trump is doing is no different from any other president, but they're making such a big deal about it that it is spreading this culture of fear among the immigrant community. And so, that needs to stop.
Mm-hmm. And it also convinces
Yeah.
the rest of America that these people are really bad.
Right.
When what the real problem is our immigration system needs to be fixed.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. If I may ask a question, to Megan, you probably already knows about my question. Some people believe government is paying like over benefits to the either people not working or they don't want to work. So my question to you, because let me give you one example. We have a lot of shortage labor, and also if like our construction business, if I try to hire people, you can't even find. And example, if like 2 years ago or a year ago we paid $1, now they're asking $5. And also they're asking in advance. And once you pay advance, they don't show up to the work. So my question to you is over benefits could potentially discourage someone or individual not to seeking job or not to go to the work.
It's a good question. It's a complicated issue because in the case of refugees, for example, when we're bringing somebody from another country and they're arriving here with absolutely nothing, we have a responsibility to do what's needed to help them get on their feet and start to build a new life. So initially, of course, they're eligible for food stamps. They're eligible for cash assistance. We rent an apartment for them, so we pay that first, last, and security, and provide some rental assistance while we make sure they're getting enrolled in English classes and helping them to find jobs. And we work to help make people self-sufficient as quickly as possible. But it can be the case sometimes that some people are afraid to start working. They're afraid. They don't understand that they have better opportunity through hard work to work themselves up the economic ladder, and instead they think they need to hang on to any free thing available to them, and so they want to get into subsidized government housing. They want to stay on food stamps. They don't want to get a better paying job because they don't want to lose these benefits because they're so scared they won't be able to survive without it. And so that's one of the challenges. And sometimes it can take a generation before people start to move up that economic ladder and learn and see. But that's one of the things that agencies like mine do, is work very hard to help provide financial literacy and job employment training, and help people learn and see the paths and the avenues they have. And so while we can identify all kinds of stories of people that are maybe trying to take advantage of the system, those are the stories we all talk about, and we don't so often talk about the other stories of the young man that came through our office in 2019 from the Congo, who started working at Ken's Food and DHL, in a factory job, making minimum wage, and sharing an apartment and saving his money, and bought his first car for $2,000. He said all his friends laughed at him, but then he got his CDL license and started working as a truck driver and making really good money and saving, and he's now bought a 4 unit home. So he lives in one apartment and rents out 3. He's still working as a truck driver. He's working on buying another rental unit. And he had said, I was so determined one year, by next year I'm going to make $35 an hour. And the year after I want to make $65 an hour. And so he this young man out of a refugee camp from the Congo, figured out a way to pursue that American dream. I've got a story of another young man who went to community college for 2 years and did really well and got a partial scholarship to Clark University and worked to pay off the balance and took advantage of the educational opportunities there. And, he shadowed a judge and then studied for the LSATs and ended up getting a full scholarship to law school at the University of Michigan. Another, kid coming from nothing out of a refugee camp. There are so many stories of, I talked to a guy from Iraq the other day who told me how he would work 18 hours a day and started out washing dishes, and he eventually bought the restaurant and he's got like 4 businesses right now. He's been here 10 years. He said, I'm a millionaire. Like, it's incredible. I see the opportunity people have, to move up that economic ladder today. When I see like, my husband's family, for example, who came here 3 generations ago as immigrants, it 3 or 4 generations, it took them 2 or 3 generations at the early part of the 1900s to work up that economic ladder. People are doing it today in 5, 10 years, and it's amazing what, so there's opportunity if people are willing to seek it and work for it. And so, those are the stories that we need to be sharing and repeating, those, of how immigrants are coming here and contributing to the economy and building businesses and building lives. And then just to continue to work to help those that there are always going to be some that struggle. And so sometimes it is the case, the more you give someone, the more they want and the less incentive they have. If you've got nothing, you've got to go out there then and get that job and figure out a way to keep that roof over your head. So it's a balancing act between, knowing sometimes when giving too much is not good. Giving too much sometimes cannot be good.
I think also is the lack of enforcement, from your agency. I'm talking example. There is quick example. I know individual. He behind for rent for 3 months. He just bought a brand new car, $40,000, and put a $15,000 down. How is possible? Because why you do that? I drive, I'm sorry, I see a lot of people drive a $3,000 car too. So if you needed car for your work or for necessity, then you can buy a cheaper car, $5,000. You are behind for rent for 3 months. Are you buying car for $40,000, right? So this is a kind of advantage they are taking. I think I need more kind of policing, toward them.
And sometimes people have to learn the hard way. If they get evicted and they end up on the street because they chose to buy a car instead of paying their rent, sometimes that's a lesson they need to learn. And we provide counseling and guidance and direction, but we don't hold people's hands forever. And at a certain point, they have to take responsibility for their own lives and sink or swim. And the vast majority swim. And those that sink, we do try to come back up along the side and provide additional support and services. And actually, refugees qualify to come back for assistance from us, not necessarily always financial assistance, but if they need help finding a new job or, getting a driver's license or something, within up to 5 years from their date of arrival in the country, they're eligible for ongoing services. So, we don't just leave people stranded. But it can be very challenging because people are human beings, and some of them are, some of them put their best foot forward and some of them don't.
Right. If I may, I think Megan's right, but I think the incentive, because of the dynamic economy of the United States, the incentive to go out and do your thing is much greater than saying, I'm just going to live off whatever subsistence level financial aid I get. So I think the immigrant community, there will always be some who will look for some kind of a subsidy or a handout. But I think majority, once they see that what the economy can give them in return, will be more than happy to toil 18 hours a day or 20 hours a day to achieve that dream. So,
Right.
yeah, but it definitely should be enforced in some way.
So I find like Attorney Wahidul Islam is so silent. I have a quick question for Attorney Wahidul Islam, and Megan, if you want, you can also answer the same question after he answered. So the question is, why you guys or why the government is not thinking about the working class people? What's wrong they made so far? Why they have to? Why you are not thinking about these people like who go to work and their lifestyle, like they it's really hard like for them as well. Like if you see the minimum wages is $15 an hour, if they have to pay their health insurance, they have to pay the rent. So after $15 they might be make $10, and if you have a 40 hours job, and then he making $400 a week after paying taxes, then $1,200 a month after paying taxes. So how he gonna pay his rent, his food, his health insurance, his transportations? How will able to afford all those things? Why the government is more concerned about the people? The rich people don't pay taxes mostly. The poor people don't pay anything. They just getting the benefits. But the working class people, they also had a hard time to live their life. So why these things are happening?
Oh, that's unfortunate, but that's the tendency. You see in a corporate setup, the most laborious people are paid less attention and less salaries, whereas those who work or don't work, just they're highly educated, their contribution, just they're higher up, they're highly paid, they're highly paid attention. They, in fact, they're the manager level, and they are the basically key stakeholder of the corporatocracy, whereas the actual physical labor, actual on the ground contribution for the productivity, for the economy of a scale, that is contributed the less educated, laborers people. And unfortunately, they are paid less, they are paid less attention, and sometimes they are even oppressed. So similarly, in a state setup, in a political system, that is something that also observable, and that's unfortunate. We don't want that a highly educated people should get equal to a less educated or illiterate people. But as much as someone is working, contributing to the economy, he has to be appreciated. He has to be given due value to his work and his talent and whatever contribution he's making, not depriving him of his rights or of his prerogatives, incentives. So this is something in the modern economic system, the capitalistic economic system, and our the political system that is actually masterminded by rich people. Basically to churn their economic benefit out of the political system. So they subjugate the people on the lower class, on the lower ladder of the society, although those are the people who contribute the most. So although there cannot be equal footing, but at least everybody should be equally appreciated for their specific and relevant roles and contributions. If that doesn't happen, that's actually injustice to the people who are contributing to your life, your way of living, and the total economic system. So this is so unfortunate, and our policymakers should take care of this, take note of this seriously, and should pay attention to the day workers, hourly paid workers, the manual laborers, to the extent that they don't feel like they are deprived, they are actually subjugated. And the more they are incentivized, the more they will be courageous and enthusiastic to work. We should contribute to the economy of the country. So I believe that the politicians, the policymakers, they should take this into account to incentivize rather than oppress the people on the lower ladder of the society.
Thank you, Wadir Islam. Megan, what your answer about like the people who even has a full-time job, work 40 hours a week, why they cannot afford their living in Massachusetts or any other states, like whatever they get paid in 40 hours, that's not sufficient just to pay their rent.
Yeah, that it's a huge problem we have in this country. And to Sorhab's question earlier, it may be one of the big reasons why Trump won this election. I think it really in part begins with the economic philosophy that we saw implemented under the Reagan administration, with deregulation and lowering taxes for corporations and for the wealthiest in our society, with the idea that if businesses are able to grow, they're going to create more jobs, employ more people, and that the profits and the wealth will trickle down to everybody else in the economic chain. And what we have seen over the last several decades is trickle-down economics doesn't work. What has happened in conjunction with regulation, deregulation, and changes to our tax system, corporations are now incentivized to pay their shareholders and keep their profits rather than invest those profits back in the company, or to pay out those profits in the form of salary to their employees. And that's actually a huge shift in how things have functioned in this country compared to the way it was in the 60s and the 70s and earlier in the 80s. So that's contributed to the growing income inequality in this country. And I think that it's an issue that's really become a Republican and Democratic issue, where we've seen Republicans campaigning on increased tax breaks for the corporate class and the wealthy, and not so much economic support for the middle class. And so we've seen the middle class really shrink in this country. So the number of people that fall below middle class is increasing, and the number of the very wealthy is increasing. And I think it's something that the Democratic Party had been working to try to change and correct. But I think a lot of it can also be helped with people understanding that the role of government is to try to promote a balance and to keep monopolies from forming, to keep corporations from price gouging, to protect us against corruption. But the message that's gotten the loudest, that's been put out there more loudly, is that government is the problem, that all the spending, the waste is in government, that we need to get rid of government agencies. We need to downsize government. We need to shrink these things, and that will be the solution to our problems. I don't believe that's necessarily the case. I think we need strong and fair, equitable policies coming out of our government that protects the people, and requires corporations to pay their fair share of federal taxes, which they do not do at this time.
They do not do at this time. Thank you, Megan. I'd like to ask Engineer Musa the question. You are familiar with working with cutting edge technology, like I'm talking about AI, artificial intelligence. So, do you think like the AI going to be a cause for huge unemployment problem? Because now big companies can do a lot of solution using artificial intelligence, and now Trump government want to deport all those people and make those all highly educated people who used to work in big companies, tech companies, and now their job is taken by artificial intelligence, and they're going to fill up the gap on those like a construction worker. So do you think this is going to be happen because of artificial intelligence and AI?
I don't. We have been looking into what contributions AI can make in the construction design, engineering design industry. But the thing is, its contribution will be very limited. Right now, AI is probably more prevalent in the medical industry, industries where you have a digital component. In the structural design process, we don't really need the use of AI, because there is nothing that has to be innovative. We pretty much use well-established principles to do the design. And certainly in the field, AI cannot replace your construction worker, the guy who is hammering the nail, the guy who's cutting the wood, who's cutting the steel, who's cutting the rebar, who's pouring the concrete. So AI
What
cannot
about
do
the
that.
3D printer is printing the whole house in 24 hours?
Well, an attempt was made like that a few years ago, when the 3D printing technology kind of took off. And the vision was that now you'd have houses built, the components needed to build the house would be all developed through 3D printing, brought to the site and put together. That hasn't happened. And there was also another effort to prefabricate, say, a typical residential house, say a 4-bedroom house, 3 bathrooms, basement, and all that. And the push was to try and modularize that. So you build it in a factory, just put it in, bring it to the site and put it in place. That hasn't worked because the labor that is required has to be individuals who are doing the grunt work. You can print some things, you can prefabricate something, but to put it together in the field needs people power. So AI cannot take that place. AI probably would be more suited, say, in the automotive industry, where they can run the robots that assemble the cars and thereby reduce their dependency on a large pool of labor. But in the construction industry, everything is literally fragmented and very distinctive. I don't see how AI can replace any of that in the near future.
Thank you, Engineer Musaddiq. Attorney Wahidul Islam, I'm a little bit disagree with Engineer Musaddiq because I can see like how Uber is replaced all those taxi driver now. Then even Uber driver is being replaced by Tesla autopilot taxi, and also like others, Jaguar and other company who don't even need a driver to drive their taxi. And then the taxi driver job is gone in New York because of Uber. Now Uber driver is gone because of all those going to be gone or vanish, like this job going to be vanished because of all those like an autopilot cars and autopilot taxis. And even like if you see like if I mention like engineer Mossadegh, like I know a software named Scratch. If you just give them some pictures like your basement, the Scratch gonna draw your like a whole basement how it going to look like. You can just do it, like even the person who can move their finger, they can like make those design. And this design make like these softwares make the people job is so easy. Even like AI can design your website, like they can do coding software, they can code the whole game for you. So the government is trying to make those like technology and push the like funding those technology and try to kill all those like jobs. At the same times they're taking the benefits from the citizens. So if the people don't have jobs and they're not getting benefited by like all those like social benefits like unemployment benefit, health benefit, and their job is taking away because we elect government to protect the normal people like who don't have like a power like an Elon Musk, who don't have a power like Steve Jobs. So what do you think like what going to be happen if the government is taking over their job and also taking over the benefits, so that sustain?
Well, technological advancement, increases the efficiency, increases the volume, but behind any technology, behind any artificial intelligence, there must be a natural intelligence, a natural person, right? So, uh, the artificial intelligence or the technology will never occupy the place of a natural person, natural brain. That's one thing. Second thing, because of the enhancement of efficiency and volume, I can compare myself 20 years back when I did my legal work manually. I didn't have to take my work beyond my table, right? I just went to office, I worked there, I wrote something on the paper, gave it to the stenographer. He typed it for me, I corrected it, and after the office hours, I came back, I slept whole night peacefully. Once you have the email, you have internet, you have the conference call system, has your work reduced all these things or increased? It has increased, right? So every level, whether in a legal office, in a engineer's office, in a NGO office, wherever you go, by adding technological advancement, your activities have increased rather than decreased. You need more people than before. Although the work that you can deliver in an hour would have taken 10 hours or 10 days before. So you are that much productive. Still, you need people. Still, you need yourself. And the matter of fact is, when you didn't have technology, you didn't have artificial intelligence, you worked only for 8 hours, nothing beyond. And rest of the day you enjoyed. Now you don't have time even to breathe. You are in the bathroom, you are receiving phone call from your boss. I need this to be done in 5 minutes, whether day or night, every time. So we see that the artificial intelligence is taking place everywhere, enhancing the productivity, enhancing the efficiency. Still, you are becoming busier than any day before. So that shows that it will not actually make you jobless. Rather, yeah, there is a saying, it says that the AI will not replace you, but you will be replaced by someone who is expert in using artificial intelligence, if you are not. So if you are a human being, you don't care about artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence usually will not replace a human being unless and until you actually adamant to adopt to the artificial intelligence culture. If you are less powerful in utilizing artificial intelligence, you will be overridden by someone who is powerful. So that's actually the reality in everywhere, even in the absence of technology or artificial intelligence. The one who is dynamic in his work, he will override someone who is very lazy, who is not innovative, right? So it's using artificial intelligence is a sign of innovation, is a sign of dynamism. It's kind of adaptation with the technological advancement. And by doing so, you are enhancing your quality, your skill, your expertise, and efficiency. So that's basically contributing to your professionalism. And but by no means the artificial intelligence would replace human talent, human caliber, and of course there are scope of works, as Musa said, that the manual works where artificial intelligence has no role to play. It's only the intellectual exercises that artificial intelligence can play a role and enhance the quality of your intellectual thinking, design, thinking, planning, presentation, those things. But actual physical work, of course, yeah, if you can make a robot and set it to work for you on certain matters, that works. But again, behind that, you have to have human brain and human managers to run the robots. So no matter what, you will be busier than any days before. That's the
That's the, yeah, that's the true.
bottom
So
line.
Yeah, thank you, Wadu Islam. My last question to Megan. Megan, what do you think? Like, I will also ask you like the same question I asked both of my two friends. So, and also I need to know one more things, and that, because this is my last question to you. So, the country like Switzerland, all the citizens get all the benefit equally. Then, if they go to work, they make extra. If they don't go to work, they don't make extra. So why don't America, we all the citizens don't get the equal benefit, at least like for the health benefit, for like at least the minimum resources to buy food so that they can live, like a housing? Why it's not possible? Where some country like Switzerland, they did it for their citizens. Some places like a Dubai, they did it for their citizens. So they born after US, even they did it. And Switzerland, but we wasn't able to go that mark. What is the obstacle? Like, why you cannot able to make it happen?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think it comes down in some respects to different sort of political philosophies. And there's always been a big concern in this country about anything that people think begins to approach any type of socialistic or communistic system. There's tremendous fear. There's been a lot of politicizing of those types of concerns and fears. But the reality is, our government needs to be able to provide effectively for all the people, and we do have all sorts of levels of sort of socialistic programs in this country. And the fire department and the police department, and all these sorts of things. This is a form of socialism in many respects, and so it's a matter of striking a balance between allowing a healthy capitalistic society to thrive, because that can often be, I think, the best environment for stimulating innovation and creativity. And people need that opportunity to be able to forge their own path and create their own future and be inspired to do what they want to do with their lives. But at the same time, we need to make sure that basic needs are being provided for everybody. And I do think that it's one of the failings that we have in this country is that we do not have national health care like every other westernized country in the world. And I do believe that healthcare absolutely is a human right. And the fact that insurance companies dictate whether people get procedures or care or life-saving need measures is absolutely outrageous in this country, and that's being driven by corporate greed, and that needs to change. So I think we have a lot to learn from some of these European countries that are providing a better standard of living for the majority of their citizens. That there's a better balance that needs to be struck here.
Thank you, Megan. Like now, I like to ask any of my guests if they have any question for each other.
No, I don't have a question, but if I may, I'd just like to continue just for a minute on what Megan said, and to answer your question that why is this, why is the United States produces 25% of the world's GDP, yet it cannot provide basic services for its citizen. I think it is because of corporate greed and political apathy. Our elected representatives are not there to really make a change in our lives, but they end up fulfilling their own agenda. And corporate greed is, I think, the average CEO makes 300 times more in stocks, bonuses, and salary than their lowest level employee. So that is what is happening. I mean, for example, if you go a few years back, where Microsoft was routinely hiring software engineers, as temporary workers. And that means that they were on paper not permitted to work 30 hours a week. And because they were temporary, they were not given any benefits. And so this went on for a while till a bunch of engineers got together and they sued Microsoft. They say you cannot indefinitely classify as temporary workers when you're saying we only work 30 hours a week, but we end up working 40 or 50 hours a week. So how that case was settled, I don't know, but I guess they came to some kind of a compromise. But on the opposite side of the spectrum, there's a company out in Seattle that processes credit card payments where the CEO was paying himself $1 million, and all his employees were getting not more than $38,000 or $40,000 a year. So then he had a change of heart, and he said, "Look, I'm going to pay everybody across the board, including myself, $70,000." And he was featured on a lot of these news shows and talk shows. And the general consensus was that his company is not going to exist anymore because you cannot, because not every employee is going to contribute the same, but they're going to all take that same salary. But guess what? The opposite happened. The company is thriving. They have expanded, and for the first time in their lives, his employees are living the American dream. They have bought houses, they have had children, they have cars, and they got together and ended up buying him a Cybertruck. But
A
that's
Cybertruck.
beside the point.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the America, if you just look at the defense budget of the United States, it's over 800 or 900 billion dollars, and that is higher than pretty much all the countries that we consider our adversaries combined. So take some of that, and you could fund healthcare for everybody. You could fund benefits. You could fund schools. You could fund colleges for a large number of people without compromising the defense capabilities or the offense capabilities of the United States. But again, it's political apathy versus and corporate greed working together. So that's the unfortunate part of this situation.
Thank you, Engineer Musa. Anybody else have anything to say?
Echo the same sentiment. It's political will, and it's the fact that there's much too much corporate influence impacting our elected officials.
Right.
Yeah. Well, is our show is over?
Almost.
All right. So
Almost.
I just want to thank all our panelists from bottom of my heart and from our ZED TV. We are truly honored have you join us. Your presence added a significant level of prestige to our ZED TV. And again, thank you.
Thank you, Fardin. You asked a good question. I see President Donald Trump, whatever he's taking action, I think is good. If he do like criminal people or rapist or drug dealing people, if he catch them, is no problem. But if they catch like regular people, they are paying tax, they are doing well, I believe he should not, or his official people should not be catch or sent deported. So is now they are catching everybody, like whoever have no paper, no this, no that. So our kind of like a small businessman, we are problem sales going down. We cannot work like all day long and like stocking, cleaning, and long hour job. We cannot do all of this. So we have is trouble is coming. Our kind of a small business like a store. So I believe some small businessmen are being forced to close temporarily or reduce their hours of operation as the immigration crackdown has led to a shortage of worker handle inventory, so and sales and customer service. So shop owner think immigration worker significant dropping, few employee is hard to find now. So really we are serving for people, a small businessman. So if he doing like that, so a small businessman should be shut down or could be go bad situation. They cannot pay their bills, they cannot pay their electric bill, they cannot pay their cell tax. So we have a trouble. So I think President Donald Trump, official people think about that, and they need to realize really what they need to do. So thank you so much. I think that's all for me. Thank you.